What is up, Los Angeles, and welcome back to your Rams LAFB show. We've got the Wednesday edition of the Rams HQ check-in practice report here with Erin Coscarelli, heading into the most pivotal game of this season so far. Chicago Bears taking on the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. The Rams by FanDuel are a 3.5-point road favorite. They're going to kick off around 3:30 on Sunday, kind of a weird time. That'll be interesting. Yeah. But Erin Coscarelli joining us live from Rams HQ. What is happening over there? What's the mood? What's it like in playoff football in Woodland Hills?
A lot of media is here. I'm in my little, my HQ phone booth. Tons of media. Hype is, I think the big storyline I think the media took into, aside from my frizzy hair today that apparently is making waves, literally, the weather. So you said 3:30 Pacific time on Sunday. That's 5:30 Central time in Chicago, with a balmy high of 15 degrees supposedly at kickoff. And it'll be windy. And I think, what's interesting was, of course, that was a lot of the conversation point discussed with McVay. We also talked to Stafford, and then we also had Davante. Less concerned about the cold and more concerned about the wind is what coach said, right? Because then the wind would impact the kicking. But Mavis in Missouri, I want to say, is that where he hails from, right? Has played in cold weather before and has played in sort of inclement dynamics. And so the big storyline really that was asked to all the guys was about the weather in Chicago.
Yeah, it's always an interesting one to consider. It's hard to think that, these guys coming from all over the place, Havenstein playing up in Wisconsin, and plenty of experience from Stafford in Chicago itself. So it's fun, always a funny conversation around the Rams, and I guess there's probably some smoke to all that talk that keeps it going. But one of the things both you and I noticed heading into this week, it seems like Sean McVay is just on cloud nine for some reason. He loves talking about, heading into the off season or into the playoffs anyway. This is all gravy time for him. His goal is to get to play more football, and he's playing more football. He was at the podium today. What was your kind of impression from McVay coming out today?
He was funny, had such a sort of self-deprecating sense of humor, kind of ribbon back the media when the media would ask about the weather. He's like, we're going to get a giant cold plunge, and we're really going to, I think much ado about nothing, which is really interesting because even after our media availability, it's 80 degrees here in Woodland Hills. So it's interesting why today they are doing a walkthrough, not an actual practice. I'm not sure. I think practice is tomorrow, which with regards to injury news, we did get an update on Kevin Dotson. He'll be limited in practice, but they'll get a good look at him tomorrow to kind of really, I think, evaluate whether or not he would be good to go for sure. Obviously, they definitely miss him, certainly in the run game. So we'll get more on that tomorrow, which I'll probably be back here. And then, he was just, he was in a good mood. I mean, a funny, good mood heading into this divisional round against Chicago, which is always really interesting to kind of take the pulse of the temperature of how these guys are feeling right now, because everybody's a little bit locked and loaded, very geared up for Chicago or whatever the postseason calls for. Like you mentioned, the Rams are favored by 3.5. But he was just he was all over the sense of humor thing, and just kind of had moments of, I think asking about the weather. He's like, look, there's not much we can do about it. We're going to take a big rock. Because imagine, people are like, does it change the way you game plan or anything like? He's like, yeah, we're going to take a big rock. We're going to go throw it out. So he just found ways to have a little bit of fun with the media, and people were people love that. So, or the
Yeah.
media was definitely picking up what he was putting down, and I think at the end of the day, there's not much that the Rams, who come from LA, who right now are dealing with 80-degree weather, can do when it comes to, they're shot and preparing really for the weather in Chicago.
Yeah, it's always a topic, and if that's the topic of conversation heading into a game, you're probably in a pretty good spot. If that's the biggest concern, is that it might be a little chilly out there for them. It was a snow game last year in the divisional round as well. Hopefully, a different type of outcome for the Rams this time around, rather than that Eagles game. Lots to take away in this game for sure. I'm going to get into it at some point with somebody, talk some preview about this game. But injury updates: Kevin Dotson likely to play. It seems like everything's trending in the right direction for him to come back. Some really interesting stats: just his on-off splits, extra 78 yards per game that the Rams offense puts up when he's out there compared to when he hasn't been. 1.4 fewer sacks allowed when he's in there, and the pressure rate drops 8.8%, which is not nothing.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive. So obviously huge input there. Another injury update: everything seems to be going right for Matthew Stafford and his sprained hand. What was being said about that?
Yeah, he was asked right away, how's the finger feel? And he said, great. And he really didn't go into it. And then someone asked a follow-up. I believe it was Sarah Barshop from ESPN. She said, are you going to wear a brace or any kind of protection? He said no. And then he's expected to wear, but it's not a scuba suit, but it's like a scuba suit, and it's something to keep you warm. He is going to wear something like that, and no, it doesn't impact or affect the way he throws, which was what he also said. But the good news is, I think a lot of people were worried, right? I mean, you and I kind of talked about it after the game. It's not just an index finger; it's a multi-million-dollar index finger, because it's on the throwing hand, and it seemed like it impacted afterwards some of his play. Davante Adams, which I'm sure we'll get into in a moment, did mention, because he was asked about it, did he notice that something was going on with Stafford with regards to the injury? And he said no, he didn't notice it, and Stafford is never really one to show. So he is very durable, and wasn't going to miss and is not going to miss time. And he, according to what he said at the podium today, he feels great.
Yeah, 100%. That's great news for this game. Obviously, he's going to be control of a lot of the game, I would say. What is the over-under on this game even?
50, I think. It's 50 and a half.
FanDuel 48.5 from FanDuel.
That changed.
Kay Adams had Alex Smith on, who is somehow morphed into Ryan Gosling, both in how he looks and how he talks. I don't know if you noticed that from that interview, but he's saying that this Rams offense is about to boat race bad Chicago Bears defense, which
I hate when people do that. I mean, the spread last week against Carolina was 10.5. Why are we doing that? That is just egregious. I mean,
Yeah, he's still a professional football team out there. Still Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams is proving that he is a NFL level quarterback. He's improved so much. So it's gonna be an interesting game with all these factors. The thing that Alex Smith did say, barring weather, that he was guaranteeing basically a Rams offensive route, a juggernaut, he called them. But speaking of scuba suits and weather and who's at the podium, Davante Adams, no sleeves for that guy, you were telling me. And he used to play in Green Bay, and I guess I don't ever remember seeing him in sleeves, but that is tough. I was, as you know, in Sun Valley, freezing everything off. And some days in LA it gets down to 50 and I'm bundling up in hoodies and beanies. So what else is going on for Mr. Davante Adams? Not a terrible game, but not a great game
Yeah, good point. He was asked about that, sort of mentioned, anytime you kind of come back, he said rusty. He used the word rusty. You feel a little rusty. And I believe it was a Fox reporter had just said, did you feel any kind of like you needed, like there was a misstep there, or you needed to kind of get into the groove? Because we talked about it, right? Was it five catches, right? Is that
how many targets? Bunch of targets. I think it was like 13 targets and 5 catches. So
okay, yeah. I mean, and obviously he didn't score a touchdown, didn't see the end zone, and I think when you come back from an injury, much like with Quentin Lake, there's opportunity for you to kind of need to readjust and get acquainted. And you're not just rolling out there going 60 miles per hour. You kind of have to, I don't know. I don't play football, but he did mention he's rusty. He was not that he was rusty, but that anytime you have taken some time off, and he has not been available since the Detroit game, you might need to, get back up to game speed. But it is Davante Adams, and he is a future Hall of Famer, and I imagine we're going to see Davante Adams be Davante Adams against the Chicago Bears on Sunday. So I'm not really worried about it, and I don't think he is, and I don't think the Rams are.
Yeah, they should have a lot of confidence going into this game, and I'm really eager to break into it more, just because Ben Johnson is one of those play callers that I have earmarked as one of the ones that can game plan against this very idiosyncratic Rams defense, I would call it. We've seen that defense being able to get picked apart recently, mitigating the pressure, which is what the entire defense is based on, with Landman and some of those guys in the back end, hopefully coming up with turnovers. That's kind of the success that they saw.
Yeah.
And then, just go back and watch some of those Detroit Lions games. And obviously the talent level isn't there necessarily that the Lions had, but they got some guys, Roma Dunze and Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. Really interesting stuff. I'm super excited about it. We didn't preview this pre-show in our kind of, we'll call it a production meeting, but Nate Scheelhaas and Chris Shula and Mike LaFleur taking interviews. And was there any questions about?
No.
Nothing about that.
Yeah, no, nothing discussed. I mean, we've obviously talked about Shula being in the head coach conversation when the Giants, it was kind of the rumor mill with the Giants and so on and so forth. And McVay just said it's like the best way to get your heart broken. So, I mean, I imagine the opportunities will be there for his staff. I think it just depends on whether or not the guys feel like they can make things happen, and do they want to leave? Do they want to leave LA? Look, you have Pete Carroll and now Tomlin, which was a strange situation.
Yeah.
But Pete Carroll, only got to be a coach for one season, and even Aaron Rodgers at the podium said, "Hey, look, this is it's like got to have the results, and everything's got to be perfect right away." And obviously the Steelers didn't get what they wanted. I mean, they haven't been able to go, make it past a postseason game in a minute. And Steelers fans are frustrated. And so, Aaron Rodgers was just kind of talking about it. But that's one of the things I wonder if coaches in this staff in LA under McVay, who are very happy, who get treated really well, you've got the 80-degree weather, life is good. Do you want to take a head coaching position for a New York media where, it's a little different there and the expectations are different, and you're working with it's almost like you need to reinvent the culture in a Giants environment, right? So I think those are going to be the things that, but let me ask you, what do you think? Do you see any of these guys potentially leaving, and where would they go?
Nate Scheelhaas is a guy that is incredibly talented. He is one of the few young offensive minds that are kind of being talked about as a head coach candidate. There's a few interesting OC candidates out there, coming out of a different building, but he's kind of the one that I'm going like, if there's kind of a forward thinking front office, maybe the Miami Dolphins would take a chance on that, but there's just not a lot of guys in that space right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So his chances of getting hired, and he's ambitious too. He's an ambitious guy. He doesn't want to stay in LA. He wants to be a head coach. Can you say the same thing about Chris Shula?
Right.
I'm sure he wants that opportunity. I would say give it another year or so, Chris, before. But there's only 32. There's only 32 of these jobs in the whole world, and the Shula name, that's head coaching. That's head coaching territory for sure. And then LaFleur, you got to have in that conversation also, just because of the young offensive mind, and anybody on the offensive side from the Rams, they're just getting some of that shine off of McVay now.
And Stafford too, no less,
And there's good jobs out there. Obviously, the New York one, probably not your premier, but you got a quarterback there. Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a very. I don't want to call it a cush job, but they've only had 3 since going back to Chuck Noll into the 60s or 70s. I don't remember when he was hired. So a nice environment there. So
yeah.
I mean, it really just depends on their ambitions and the rest of the competition out there. I don't think LaFleur or Shula are the number one guys out there. Obviously, with Harbaugh, Carroll, you mentioned out there, lots of talent and a lot of defensive talent. So if Shieldhouse and LaFleur, I'm kind of pointing at as possible, and Shula, I would say. If he's, I'm not saying I'm not impressed with him.
Shula?
Yeah.
Well, you're saying that because of the recent downturn of the defense. See, if the defense finished strong and had like a solid last 2 games, 3 games, didn't allow Atlanta, because I think you're right. Nate Landman, he was like the punch out king. That was happening like every other week. What's going on? I think personally, and we should ask your followers and the LAFB network. I think it's momentum. I think it's young guys who are emotional. They've missed Quentin Lake on the leadership side when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. But when the play calling gets more conservative from McVay, the defense, you're seeing a momentum shift. And it is, to me, it feels very emotional. And I know I talk about this each and every week. But for me, I think it's just a game of momentum and chess. And when you see, like Carolina, I tweeted this, Carolina on their heels, you kind of change a little bit of the game management or clock management. And then the defense carries that, is what I've seen. But you're right. Like, the defense hasn't had these strong finishes that they were having earlier in the season, right?
Yeah, and I think you've seen teams be able to kind of adjust to the strength, which is what we said earlier, the defensive front, those front 4 guys specifically, and picking up the stunts a bit better, moving the pocket a little bit more on the offensive side, sniffing it out pre-snap a bit, and then the tendencies that they have had. Who are these guys that are simulating and that are going to drop out? Like, those tendencies start to build, and I've always wondered they got the fastball, we know it, and it's a stunner. It strikes out a lot of guys, but what's the second and third pitches that you can go to when that gets taken away? And they just don't. I haven't seen them, throw those pitches yet, and they're just limited from a talent perspective. And I think a lot of the success can be given to the scouting department and Les Snead, because they drafted those guys and developed, and obviously the coaching staff developed them, but they've identified this talent up front, they've drafted it, and that's kind of the strength of the team. Not to belabor the point anymore, but being a head coach is a lot different than being a coordinator, and we have not seen Shula outside of the McVay ecosystem at all. So what
is your issue with the defense specifically in the secondary?
Oh yeah,
Or
yeah, 100%.
So you feel like they should have drafted a cornerback this offseason, and that was something that they missed on? Or I mean,
a cornerback is a CB, not a QB, right? Well, it sounded like you said quarterback.
Oh no, I said DB, like cornerback.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. They did not they didn't draft and they didn't bring any UDFA.
And the reason why I hesitated was because Tyler Dragon gives me grief because I said that the Rams should have drafted. Okay, I'm just like,
I'm in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with you on that one. But no, I mean, I like Terrence Ferguson a lot. I think he's got a lot of things to offer this team in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm not really, things are in the past. I forget about them. I don't remember who the great cornerbacks were in this draft class, if there were any. Nothing's coming to mind off the top, but that means very little right now. But yeah, I think adding a few cornerbacks compared to their current how they've built back there, they haven't. I mean, Akella Witherspoon is on IR right now, and they're like, okay, let's see how this goes. And it could cost him. I mean, I talk about the special teams costing him in the playoffs.
I know.
If it's Emmanuel Forbes just getting run over by Kyle Monungai on the outside, that's also a problem. A solvable problem. So that'll all play out. And there's another draft coming up where they got a couple of first round picks, so they could correct that pretty quickly. Anything else from HQ before we get out of here?
No, I think it's just, we're about to have a open locker room soon. Anything you in particular? I was just thinking I was going to get a, temperature check literally on how people are feeling about Chicago. Do we wear the sleeves? Do we not wear the sleeves? But if there's anything I should focus on or you're curious about, please let me know.
Yeah, well, I'll throw that to our audience and say drop it in the comments. She's there. You're gonna be there. You're gonna be at Rams HQ tomorrow and the next day, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably be here the next 2 days. And I feel like we just gotta keep talking about what we're seeing in terms of how to get this W. I mean, it's interesting because talking to so many people. Some people are saying, it's going to be a blowout. It's like, the Rams are going to run them over. And I'm like, are you guys crazy here? Like, no, it's not at all. Caleb Williams by the way, I'm going to regret saying that now because whatever, but we just don't know. We don't know with this team. This team, in my opinion, is the most talented roster, but there have been things that we've seen that they've been snake bit by. And, they should have been the home team. They should have been the 1 seed in the NFC at this point. And a 2-point conversion drops them to the 5. A missed 2-point conversion drops them to the 5 seed. So here we go. This is the path they're got to take.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that Atlanta game today because I was looking at draft positioning. Oof. And if you can lose to the Falcons, you can lose to the Bears. If you can lose to the Panthers, who have the worst pass rush success rate, tied with the 49ers, who are 7-point underdogs in Seattle. You can lose to the Bears. So,
well, and I know we're wrapping, but remember the conversation about the overhype was a conversation we had right after the Seahawks game, right? I'm not saying that was the case here. I'm just saying this is a team that has been impacted by, could there be distractions or frustrations, or can a team take a beat, right? Like right before the Carolina game, we were like, that team seemed flat. And then the 1 seed conversation against the Seahawks, they played them very tough. In my opinion, that should have been a W for the Rams. But, Puka, I just think that it's any given Sunday. So.
Yep. And playoffs are harder for a reason. There's more on the line and guys are
Mhm. Yeah.
Usually the team that are showed up more prepared and more focused win these games. So that's
Mhm.
job number one for these Los Angeles Rams. And until tomorrow, I suppose we'll be back tomorrow if everything goes to plan, and bring those questions in. I'll forward them, the best ones,
Mhm.
all along to Erin Coscarelli, and she can pose those questions to players and coaches right there at Rams HQ. So until then, guys, we will see you shortly.
Hey, Ramley, thank you so much for hanging out with us and watching the Rams LAFB show. Quickly before you go, got to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. It's the #1 sports app right now, and you've got to download it because it's got so many great features that I want to tell you about. Aside from season-long fantasy, which is the best in the business, they've also got live score trackers, in-game updates, plus the live chat where you can actually communicate with other users right on the app. But perhaps the best feature, at least that I like, is the daily fantasy feature or the live pick'em. Just pick 2 to 8 players across any sport: baseball, basketball, hockey, obviously football and our Rams. You're going to choose a player, just choose more or less. Matthew Stafford, more or less passing yards. Kyron Williams, more or less rushing yards, more or less touchdowns. 2 to 8, you can win real money. So when you go to make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code RAMSLAFB, and Sleeper's going to give you a match bonus up to $100. So you deposit $100, they're going to give you $100 free. You're now sitting at $200. You put in $10, they're going to match you $10. You're now sitting at $20. But on top of that, right now, Sleeper is offering all new user signups a $20 free entry, no deposit required. Go sign up. You're automatically invested $20 straight from Sleeper. But you can stack that offer with that match bonus offer to add more money. Just make sure to use that promo code RAMS. LAFB. Go check out Sleeper. Download it today. Tell them the guys at the Rams LAFB sent you. And as always, Ramley, thank you so much for making us a part of your day.